Welcome back, everyone, to the Daily 8. All right, so we've been talking about some really cool new things, both in our top 8 headline countdown, but then also with Nate Phillips of the West Michigan Whitecaps. But there is something also new over at the Grand Rapids Community College. It is a brand new bee apiary. If you're wondering what a bee apiary is or really what it can do, well, thankfully, Audrey Heckwolf with GRCC was kind enough to join me earlier to talk all about what this means for the community here in West Michigan. Audrey, thank you so much for joining us today. We very much do appreciate it, especially when we get to talk about such an exciting topic that's over at Grand Rapids Community College. It's a new bee apiary. Obviously, we encourage everybody to go online, check out our web article to learn a little bit more about what the apiary is all about. But Audrey is here as one of the top professors kind of in charge and leading this new initiative at GRCC. Audrey, explain a little bit, if you wouldn't mind, just what this new apiary really is.
Yeah, and I just want to say thanks for the interest because we are just thrilled about it. And to get the word out about the importance of bees is just so incredibly important. So the college is interested in creating more sustainable opportunities and practices on campus. And I'm also part of the Grand Rapids Area Beekeeping Club. So when someone at the college approached me, because I'm a hobbyist beekeeper myself, to me, it seemed like a perfect partnership to connect those two groups, so the college as well as the community group about bees, and build this apiary. So we have 3 hives currently at the MTech location off of Godfrey, and it's been a great experience. We just had our first teaching class out there with club members last week, and it was a huge success.
And obviously the partnership with the Grand Rapids Area Bee Club is huge for this apiary initiative. But then also, again, like you said, having that first class kind of teaching and educating the students and community and really just explaining a little bit more about the importance of beekeeping. I mean, this is with having this apiary, the goal is kind of twofold, not only to educate, but also help the bee population here in West Michigan.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and kind of just being able to have that right there on GRCC. I mean, what does that mean for not only the students, but really also everybody kind of in the community as well?
Well, I think it's a perfect location, perfect opportunity because the infrastructure is there. There is an incredible interest about bees, and people are learning more and more about their importance. So I'm also a professional chef. So statistically, 1 in every 3 bites of the food that we eat is based on pollination. So while bees are not the only pollinators, honeybees are the most efficient. So that we are able to provide this service and educate community members, to educate students, faculty, and staff at the college, and again, have that really top level infrastructure there, I think is a just incredible opportunity.
And you touched on it, and I got to ask you, because you don't get to meet very many bee hobbyists, I guess, in your lifetime. So how did you really kind of get involved in that? You know, obviously, bees mean something to a bunch of different people. You know, some people might have a little bit a little bit of fear, I guess, around them kind of flying at you. But bees are obviously so important to our ecosystem. How did you kind of get involved in wanting to be around them, I guess, all the time?
Um, Honestly, I was always interested in bees. They're the most fascinating creatures. And about 6 years ago, I convinced my sister that this is something we should do. And we researched and studied for about a year, and then we bought our first bees. And we haven't stopped since. And we do a lot together with bees in terms of now having the apiary at the college, which was about a 3-year process, and doing a lot of children's education. So I think the education component is what is absolutely critical because so many people have fear of bees, don't understand their really critical ecosystem importance and what people can do to help bees. And they are really struggling.
hmm Yeah, I think that's something I want to spend a little bit of time now on, Audrey, if you don't mind. Just, you know, the importance of bees. You know, we hear all the time just how vital they are to the ecosystem and the environment, and they do all these different great things, and the population is dwindling, and we have to do everything we can to kind of help supplement them and help them get that population back up. If you wouldn't mind just explaining a little bit further for people that maybe haven't spent as much time kind of researching bees and what they actually do. You know, what are they doing that we may not notice in our day-to-day lives that are actually helping us?
Absolutely. I'm so glad you asked because I think people always focus on the honey from the bees,
Hmm.
which is not really produced for humans, but it's their pollination. And honeybees are the most efficient pollinators. So while butterflies pollinate, wasps, birds, bats, all of those things, the honeybees do it the best. And without pollination, we would not have foods like apples, watermelons, coffee. There are so many foods that are pollinator reliant that with the decreasing populations of bees, studies are showing that it's the hobbyist beekeeper that are bringing them back. But it is still such a struggle because there's a lot of things. People are using more and more pesticides. In the last year, the increase of just um, regular families spraying their yard with pesticides has been a huge impact on hobbyist beekeepers because if I have bees in my backyard and my two neighbors spray, it will absolutely decimate my bees. So I think it's that education of what people can do once they recognize if we don't have bees, we have no food.
Hmm. Right. No, I think that's probably a big message to kind of put out there. And kind of also on that flip side, you mentioned, and we both kind of touched on that some people are scared of bees. You know, maybe they've got a little bit of a phobia around them. If you wouldn't mind kind of dispelling just a little bit about those fears, because I think when people see a bee, their first reaction is to start swatting at it or maybe run away. But that's not always the case to really kind of bridge that gap, I guess, between the honeybees and humans who might have a little bit of a fear about them.
Absolutely. I think what's really a common misconception is people confuse bees with wasps, and wasps are a very different character and they have a very different personality and are not the same as a honeybee. So, a honeybee will not sting you if you are not bothering them. They only sting to protect their hive. So if they feel threatened, which waving your hands around them is probably going to not make them happy, then they may sting you. A honeybee will die once it stings you. Not all bees do that. We have hundreds of native bees in Michigan that also pollinate. We have bees that sting and bees that don't sting. So I think people learning the difference, but really understanding what a honeybee looks like and not confusing it with having a wasp and then
Hmm.
trying to hurt it in some way. We have many people that contact our club that have nests that would like them removed and assume that they're honeybees and they're not, and they're wasps, which is not something we would do. But if you ever see that you have a nest or a group of honeybees that you would like removed, you just need to contact the Grand Rapids Area Beekeeping Club. You will have beekeepers out there within a day claiming those bees because we understand the importance. And when bees dies and beekeepers have to purchase more, they're quite expensive.
Right, right. I can imagine. Definitely some good messaging to put out there for everybody. If they maybe do have those fears, again, the Grand Rapids Area Bee Club is there to help you and maybe dispel a little bit some of those fears as well. Let's go back to the apiary a little bit, if you don't mind, Audrey. What
Sure.
will it be used for? I think that was maybe a question I forgot to ask at the very beginning. But as far as what the overall goal is behind having this with GRCC now, I mean, what do you guys plan to be using this for? Maybe on a day to day or week to week or even month to month basis?
Our intention is to do as much education as possible. So we will have groups of club members, which are people who are either basically mentors that are experienced beekeepers, mentoring new beekeepers that have maybe not bought bees yet, are just interested in it, or have bees and have lots of questions. The learning curve can sometimes be pretty steep. And then the other side of that is reaching out to the community at large and letting them come and look at the hives and learn about the hives, or going to different locations and talk about the importance of bees. That's one of the education things that I do. And I present at many, many grade schools just to educate not to be scared of bees, how important they are, and what we can do to help them thrive. And then that last component is for us to have more education opportunities at the college. So whether it is what we call an apiary day, where people can come out, we open the hives and talk about what's going on in the hive, whether it is lectures. There is talk about having an actual beekeeping class. So I think that is a very big possibility. And then also having maybe conferences or one full day learning opportunities where we have experienced beekeepers come and talk about different topics about beekeeping. So I think there's just really endless opportunities. I'm hoping that some of our classes, so again, I'm in culinary, that some of our other disciplines will reach out. I know that, for example, photography has
Mhm.
already reached out to me because they would like to come out to the hives and use that as an exercise, which would be wonderful. But I think chemistry, biology, art, I mean, it's really endless if you think about it. I could see math come out and talk about what's happening in the hive from a math perspective.
Yeah, no, different ways to really utilize the apiary. And the education is obviously such an important part of it, but we also would like to see some action, I guess, come out of these different classes and different seminars and different educational periods that you guys are hosting over at the apiary. But for action goes, I mean, for students at GRCC, or maybe even just the regular average Joe walking the streets of Grand Rapids, I mean, what are some of the ways that we can actually help the bee population today? Maybe it doesn't require a whole lot of extra work, but just, making sure that we're doing everything that we can to help these creatures that are so vital to our everyday
Yeah.
lives.
Well, I appreciate you asking that, Phil. I would say first, the most important thing is to be educated, not to be scared of them. If a honeybee lands on you, if you just walk away calmly, it will fly away. If you gently push it off you, it will go away. So again, educating people that they should not be afraid of the honeybee. Second, I would say is, and this is a common misconception that everybody talks about pollinator gardens. A pollinator garden is beautiful, but
Mhm.
it does not help the honeybee as much as it helps the native bees. So also very important, but often people think they're doing that for the honeybee. A pollinator garden is not a significant source that the honeybee is going to find and then communicate to the rest of the hive that there's this tremendous source in a resident's front yard because it's just not large enough. They're looking for fields and they will travel up to 2 miles looking for sources of pollen and nectar. So the last thing is, which again many people don't know, but trees are a huge help and they're some of the first um, offer the first availability for pollen for the honeybees. So maple trees, tulip trees, basswood trees, and there's quite a large list that those are the best things. And they are like planting an entire pollinator field, if you can imagine how fruitful a tree can be versus having some flowers in your front yard. But
Mhm.
again, those are good too because they do help the local bees.
Mhm. Absolutely. Well, great stuff. Audrey, thank you so much for stopping by. We really did enjoy this conversation. Not only was it a lot of fun to talk about this new apiary, but it was so educational. So can't thank you enough for stopping by today.
Yep. Can I add one thing?
Yes, absolutely.
I just want to add that if people are interested, if they want to reach out to, again, it's the uh, Grand Rapids Area Beekeeping Club. There's a Facebook page. If they want to reach out, that club meets one day a month in the evening. We have speakers from all over Michigan, and it is a great educational starting point for people who are interested in bees.
All right, awesome. Well, great stuff. Thank you for including that, Audrey. We so do appreciate it. Hope we have a great rest of your day.
Thanks so much, Phil.
Of course. And special thanks goes out again to Audrey for the time. We really do appreciate it. And we're really looking forward to keeping an eye on how that bee apiary goes over at GRCC.